Hello, Lorraine. It's Amy here, and this is my Practicum 2 final presentation. Unfortunately for me, I often have a hard time articulating my concepts and the ideas I'm trying to get across, so please bear with me for the next 20 to 50 minutes while I stumble through my presentation. So my Practicum site was at Covenant Christian School in Leduc. To give you some perspective throughout the presentation of why I chose this as my site, I wanted to experience something a little bit different than the typical gym setting, something a little bit more unconventional. I did my first practicum at the rec center in Leduc, and that was great. Although, again, with that was also working fairly independently, but um, I know that I grew in that, and sometimes in the situation it's hard to really see where you're going to glean from it in the future, but I know that I definitely learned a lot, and let's go ahead. My supervisors, this is Donovan Simmons here on the newly built climbing wall in the gym. It's about 8 feet tall and 15 feet across. Donovan Simmons, he's the principal. During his university years, he challenged the CanFit Pro exam, so he also did fitness training. I did not, unfortunately, have much opportunity to work with him. He set things up for me with my practicum, and I mostly worked with Mr. Drader, Philip Drader, the phys ed teacher. When I approached the school to see about the possibility of doing my practicum there, they were willing to take me on, and I'm really thankful for the support that they gave me, because it was really a fantastic experience working with a great group of people. The outline for my presentation, I'm going to go through the areas that I worked in, starting with the grade 5 to 9 physical education class. They did a fitness in February unit. That's where I obtained the majority of my hours. We would do half-hour classes from 9 till 12:30 was the schedule. So starting with the grade 5s all the way to grade 9s, half an hour each class. Teacher group fitness once a week after school on Tuesdays. Student individual and group fitness, that was also after school on Wednesdays. And in the end, to make sure I completed enough hours, which as an oversight on my part with days off of school as well as spring break, I was short, so a personal program for myself. And this down here is a picture of my daughter and their basketball team, elementary girls, grades 4 to 6. They got the basketball championships for this year. That was late January, early February, and that was a lot of fun. Pretty exciting time. After I had decided and nailed down my practicum site, I had a few weeks to mull it over, and that was an incredibly stressful time with the uncertainties of how it would look. Even though we outlined it, I thought it was fairly intimidating, upcoming, and also just being unfamiliar with the facility, lack of experience, all those things. So thankfully we're past that. Fitness in February. So this is where we started with Mr. Drader. I'm really, really thankful that he brought me in to work with him. It was great to see how working alongside him was as a learning experience, and seeing how he works with the kids, and then how they respect him and listen to him, and he just how he conducts himself with him was great to observe. He gave me a lot of opportunity to take charge and lead, and that was very valuable. Here is the gym, the workspace that we had. Along the back wall there is all the equipment in the cupboards, so pylons, skipping ropes, hockey sticks, all those things. There wasn't a lot for actual exercise equipment, some kettlebells, but that was about it, and some portable risers. So they're about 12 18 and 20 to 24 inches high. So we used those for some step ups, some converted them into a little bit of a box for some box jumps and activities like that to elevate some exercises. So I unfortunately also don't have a lot of my own pictures to go through this. I regret not taking more and allowing myself to just be overwhelmed in working with my clients, the staff of the school and the students, and not stepping out of that nervousness and saying, hey, could I take some pictures and use them for my schooling. So there, what I have for pictures, I'll give some description and that whatnot. Curricular outcomes. So what I was given in working with Mr. Drader and the phys ed class, the directions that he gave me, he said, this is our curricular outcomes, and we'll do some exercises with them, and here you go. So it was a little bit self-guided there, not having experienced any of what he's done in fitness in February before. Again, it was really incredibly overwhelming, but I spent as much time as I could preparing and coming up with what I thought would work in that time and how it would fit with the students, and then each class kind of modifying for the next class and how it would go. I really enjoyed working with the younger groups from grades 5 to 7. Those kids are still pretty interested in taking part in things. The grade 9s become more independent, which is great, and they have their own. They're very. A lot of them are really interested in their pursuing their own individual fitness, so that was cool too. But so the curricular outcomes, I'll go from the grade 5s to the grade 9s, and then it grows in between. But demonstrate and select ways to achieve a personal, functional level of physical fitness through participation in physical activity. So they related those things personally to themselves and what they do. Identify and explain the importance of the components of fitness and health and well-being. So some of the exercises we did, we categorized them so they could more easily identify them. Also discuss them and how they are personally important. Describe how physical activity influences physical fitness and the body system. So what is physical activity? What constitutes physical activity? How is it good for you? And we went over some things like that and played some games and we had some exercise routine where were introduced to various exercises. So jumping ahead to the curricular outcomes of the grade 9s, applying and refining activity-specific skills in a variety of individual pursuits, e.g. fitness activities. So one of the really keen students is playing volleyball at a higher level and wanted to improve their level of fitness, so they took that on for themselves as a goal. Demonstrate, monitor, and analyze ways to achieve a personal, functional level of physical fitness. So what we had them do a program towards the end after we went through the stages and introductions. They did a program for themselves, design and implement a personal fitness and activity plan using the principles of training. So they had to pick their own exercises, pick the amounts of sets and repetitions, and the duration and frequency, intensity, and describe how those fit into the components, and then a little bit of how that would get them closer to their goals. So I was there for that, and with the teacher was able to help guide them through that a little bit, which is really fun. Monitor and analyze, assess fitness changes as a result of physical activity. So with that, we got into some progressions and regressions and modifications, as well as periodization and how to keep up with their plan. In the beginning, we used time circuit intervals. I did up a bunch of visual aids at the beginning and shared those with the teacher when we did our stations, just to help manage the amount of students. So the circuit intervals with the students as well as the teachers was the most effective way in having dealing with the amount of equipment we had and the amount of time, as well as um, uh, being able to work with them and supervise them to help them teach them proper form and stuff. So here is a couple examples of what would have been on the visual aids at the stations. We had about 40 of these, and we did things like plyometric exercises, box jumps, overhead slams, burpees, push-ups. With the weights we had, we would do shoulder presses, bicep curls, and raises, and different things, resistance bands. We had some resistance bands, and um, just utilizing the amount of equipment we had for the amount of students, and that worked pretty well. I found it really interesting in working with the students that the amount of instruction you gave them sometimes made their form worse. So exercise cueing, once you describe things, they would sequence them a lot more, like an overhead slam. They would the tendency to want to just slam, using their upper body instead of a whole body movement, and things would become disjointed. So it was interesting to see the varying levels. Even some didn't really seem to matter how familiar or active of a background they had. It just seemed to be a mental block or not. Either way, some kids just had the form and some kids didn't, but they would eventually all get it. Just the process of getting there was different. So it was a busy time. The school had the CCS Winter Olympics going on, which was a lot of fun. I can't remember which school or which country won. The students were divided up into each country, and they would do a modified activity like a luge or whatever, using scooters indoors or outdoors, or depending what the activity was that was following along with the Olympics at the time. So that got everyone involved, and was pretty busy. Yeah, I didn't have any that was a school-based activity apart from phys ed, so I didn't have really anything to do with that, but it was fun to watch when I could. So for the fitness in February hours, I was there for 20 hours total, about 3.5 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week, for a couple of weeks. It was really neat. The opportunity to work with the kids was really neat, and I'd run into them in the hallways, and they also had a play going on at the time that they were preparing for, and you'd see them carrying pieces of set or whatever, something heavy, and they'd say, "Hey, Mrs. Beggs, I'm doing fitness," and that was pretty cool, just to see them make the connection and kind of have fun with it. So their attitudes and participation was really encouraging to me, and to get a chance to work with them and see how that might fit in the future with possible career opportunities was a great experience. So the staff group fitness, that itself was also extremely intimidating in preparation for, knowing that I'm going to be teaching teachers who have a great deal of education and experience, and still feeling like I've got a lot of growth and knowledge and experience that I could gain. It was very intimidating. So the first class, I had 12 teachers, which would have been almost all of them, and some staff. Participation kind of was up and down throughout the entire time, and I'd say overall I had about 5 to 7 staff that came regularly, and in that time it was awesome to get to know them. I didn't have a chance, given how it started, and it was kind of all over the place, and it was once a week, to do any specific assessments with the staff. Going through the exercises, I was always keeping an eye out for posture and thinking of ways of improving that exercises that we could do to improve it, or stretches, however possible. Here's a picture of my own personal equipment that I brought. I had various dumbbells from 3 to 25 pounds. So I had one set of 25-pound dumbbells, a set of 10s, a set of 15s, and then a handful of 5s to 10-pound dumbbells. So coming up with exercises that were based majority body weight or available equipment was a bit of a challenge at times, but I accumulated a little bit more equipment during my time that I was there, and brought it with me, and in the end it worked out fairly well. So the typical staff turnout, the teachers that consistently came, one of them asked a lot of questions, and that helped with the learning experience. She enjoyed soccer, and she talked about her goals with the game, and it was just a recreational thing for her, but how fitness would relate and things like that. So I did get a chance to chat with them and get to know them a bit better. The range and backgrounds of the abilities that came was pretty varied. Some of the teachers came as much, I think, for the social part as the physical activity part, and some of the teachers had a pretty strong athletic background that they were really trying to improve and get more minutes towards their strength training and whatnot. So the all the different groups of people was really neat to work with in the range of backgrounds. The focus, as I may have said, was on functional fitness and muscular strength. So I'd help make modifications, progressions, regressions, plan ahead of time, so I wouldn't have to do it on the fly. I can really easily let myself get overwhelmed and lose my words and have a hard time explaining things if I don't have it laid out before me and I haven't planned ahead. So to make sure I was able to bring value and have a professional presence, I tried to, as much as I possibly could, to be over prepared when I was there. So the group fitness hours were 12.25. So not as much as I would have liked, and especially having them broken up quite a bit. But with the time and available space, often after school, besides the 2 days after school that I was there would be volleyball practice, basketball practice, or games, and that didn't leave a lot of extra time or space for getting hours in and stuff. Student personal training hours, I had about 4 students that came not regularly. It was great to get a chance to work with some of the grade 9 students that I was also doing phys ed with, so I got a chance to know them better. What was really awesome, the one client that I'll talk a little bit more about, she is now in high school, so she's out of the school, but her mom is a staff at the school and asked if her daughter would be able to come in and participate in these classes once a week, being that she no longer is doing the activities that she used to be doing. She was into skating for quite a while, and now she's into just horseback riding. But as girls get older, especially having a daughter myself, I know that it's hard to get them to be active, and she would always show up and work really hard and have a great attitude, and I did have a chance to do the assessments with her initially, but not at the end. Only working with her once a week was probably not enough for her to progress, but definitely valuable in obtaining some physical activity throughout her week. But that was really neat to work with her, and it was an encouragement to me, and I hope that I was able to be an encouragement to her as well. Professional rating, I gave myself a 7 out of 10 based on performance. I know that I can be pretty hard on myself, and I always leave feeling like I wish I would have said this, I wish I would have done that, I needed to work on this, or I needed to work on that. So I know that there's always room for improvement, and I did the best I could and was always prepared, and um, uh, tried to be, as professional as I possibly could in communication and everything. And I just, you know, not being new to all this, I can, I can grow from here. Initiative and accountability. So I guess as a timeline, I approached the school and just seen if there was an opportunity there, and then given the opportunity that I was given, I took it and worked with it and did the best that I could. I wanted to I wanted to step out a little bit more than maybe what I did, of my comfort zone. One of the things that I'm a little disappointed in initially from my meeting with the principal and how he would bring me in to have my hours done was the um, fitness in February teacher and the student fitness, as well as working with the basketball coach and the junior high girls. So without any, you know, him, he kind of just sent me off to the basketball coach. So I approached the coach and I said, hey, I'm not sure if you talked to Donovan. And I introduced myself and explained a little bit about what I was doing and discussed with him basketball. And it seemed like it would go pretty well. He's also a parent of one of the girls on the team, and he's got a busy career and coaching. I think I didn't I didn't put myself in the situation enough to step out of my comfort zone. I didn't want to step on his toes, and I kind of was like, if you if I can come to the practices and stuff, that'd be great. And I didn't seize the opportunity, I think, like I could have, and go confidently and boldly into that. So that broke down a little bit. I reached out to him, and he, just kind of broke down. It was the end of the basketball season, and there was no falling out. I don't think that he was interested in having anybody else come in and work with him at that point. So I did discuss that with the principal. I said I could have probably communicated better with him, or I wish that it would have went differently. And his explanation of the basketball coach is that he's a lone wolf, and even he, as the principal, is not involved with the program. The coach has got all the experience, and he just takes it and runs with it. So that was okay, but that's one regret that I have. Information gathering, anything that I was coming upon that I didn't know, I research it and familiarize myself with it, especially with working with the Fitness in February kids. I wanted to be fun, I wanted it to be safe, and I wanted it to be applicable to them. So I spent a lot of time going deeper into my studies and reviewing, as well as finding other resources that I could use and apply. Apart from that, I think that is the extent of where my information gathering would have went. I'm always kind of on looking up anything related to science-based physical activity stuff and staying on top of it. So to just keep growing and letting that sink in is something I'm continually doing. Communication with staff and clients. So I've majority communicated with the phys ed teacher, Philip Drader, and worked with him as well, and the principal. So their, email, phone, in person, as well as I offered my contact information to the staff when I would see them, or to the principal to pass on if anybody had any questions or wanted to speak to me or anything. I just made myself available to that in any capacity that was needed or necessary. Exercise demonstration, cueing, and presentation. Any class, either be it the student, teacher, or fitness in February class, I think cueing is demonstration is key. I like to be proactive instead of reactive. I really have a hard time correcting for them once somebody's already doing it. I have something that I have to work on and step out of my comfort zone there too, and saying, hey, I don't want to see you hurt yourself, or however you approach it, but that is something that I need to work on there. But always demonstrate and cue, as well as the visual aids that I had if they were necessary, just to, if I wasn't able to be specifically watching with a larger group. Punctuality and availability. I always showed up on time beforehand to prepare and prepare myself and prepare my class. So as much as I am always chronically on time, it's really important to me. So I was never had an experience with being late, and I made myself available to whatever schedule that he could put me in. So I freed up my schedule, and that was I left it open to that. Knowledge gained on site. So I really think that I grew while I was there. It wasn't necessarily that I gained knowledge from the site specifically, but externally. It also helped me absorb some of the concepts and ideas, as well as new ideas and ways of looking at things, different perspectives and stuff. So the knowledge gained at the site was, I would say, pretty vast, but as an experience, that's where the value is, and I can certainly glean from that and use it in the future. So I'm running out of time here. Strengthening routine. This is where I spent 8 hours to make up some extra time for my shoulders, lower back. A lot of pain, as well as a breakdown in movement quality. I've just not felt good. I've lost a lot of my own self-efficacy and motivation, and as a teacher or somebody who's going to be teaching exercise, not feeling confident myself has been a hindrance. So the routine that I've worked on for myself for posture and low back pain, spent the last couple of weeks at that, and it's been huge. I really needed to focus on that and get back into it, and now I'm there and I can take it and run with it. So exercise is medicine. I've just really renewed and excited about how the effects that it's making for me, and I can take that with me in my as I go into my exploring a career. So my last slide here, miscellaneous. In addition to my hours with the PE class, student and staff fitness, I had 3.75 hours with basketball. That was taking part in a couple of practices, as well as scorekeeping for a couple games, and preparation and working for the PE students. So I had some planning hours there, 8 hours there, and a total of 65.75 hours. And this is what my workspace looks like. My cat is my constant and faithful companion while I am here doing my work. And yeah, it's been great. I'm really looking forward to what is to come. Thanks, Lorraine.